All right. Lesson 42, the last years of King Asa. And we'll start where we left off yesterday in 2 Chronicles chapter 16. Okay. So we saw King Asa was a good king in the beginning. God gave the kingdom of Judah some peace. There were some troubles. There were some other nations that came up and fought against them. But God blessed Asa because he led the people in a way that was the right and proper worship of God. He had the energy to go out and destroy the altars and the images, and then he received a renewed energy to go out and do it again. But we'll see how the end of King Asa's life is. So if you have your chart there, you can see he reigned for quite some time. Quite some time there in Judah. God blessed his reign. Okay? And what we're going to see here at the beginning is, if we look across, you can see King Baasha over being the king of Israel during the time of Asa, and he comes and creates some trouble with the kingdom of Judah. So they've had peace, but not anymore. 2 Chronicles chapter 16, starting at verse 1 there. In the 6th and 30th year of the reign of Asa, Baasha, king of Israel, came up against Judah and built Ramah, to the intent that he might let none go out or come in to Asa, king of Judah. Then Asa brought out silver and gold out of the treasures of the house of the Lord and of the king's house, and sent to Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, that dwelt at Damascus, saying, There is a league between me and thee, as there was between my father and thy father. Behold, I have sent thee silver and gold. Go, break the league with Baasha, king of Israel, that he may depart from me. And Ben-Hadad hearkened unto King Asa, and sent the captains of his armies against the cities of Israel. And they smote Ijon, and Dan, and Abel-maim, and all the store cities of Naphtali. And it came to pass, when Baasha heard it, that he left off building Ramah, and let his work cease. Then Asa the king took all Judah, and carried away the stones of Ramah, and the timber thereof wherewith Baasha was building. And he built therewith Geba and Mizpah. So, what was the problem? Well, King Baasha wasn't happy with those people from Ephraim and Manasseh and Simeon who had left the kingdom of Israel and moved to the kingdom of Judah to worship God there. He was upset about that. He's losing tax-paying citizens, and he's losing soldiers and other men. If this continues to happen, more and more people will leave the kingdom of Israel and they'll move to Judah. So King Baasha's plan is very simple. I will build some fortified cities at the borders, and I will stop and prevent all Israelites from leaving and going down to Judah. Just like we studied post-World War II. What did the East Germans do when their people were leaving their country heading to West Berlin? They built a wall, stopped them from leaving. And that's exactly what happens here. And King Asa is not happy about it. He doesn't want that to happen because, first of all, it makes it easier for the king of Israel to attack. Okay? And he wanted some of the Israelites probably to have the freedom to be able to come. So King Asa does not do what he did before. Remember, before, when there was troubles, he prayed to the Lord and asked, Lord, when these Ethiopians are coming, what should I do? How am I going to defeat them? Instead, King Asa, now that he's living a pretty comfortable and enjoyable life, things are going really well, wealth is growing, peace and prosperity, he thinks to himself, I'll solve this problem. It will be up to me. So what does he do? He's a little bit sneaky here. You see, up north of Israel was the kingdom of Syria. And the kingdom of Syria, being a neighbor with Israel, said, we don't want to always be fighting each other. Let's make a friendship, a league with one another, an agreement not to attack. We'll attack the other nations around us, but we won't attack each other. Well, King Asa knows about this league that King Baasha has with King Ben-Hadad of Syria, and he sends a group of men, some messengers with gold and silver taken from the Lord's house. That's shameful. And he gives them to the king of Syria, saying, Here, king of Syria, I want you to break your agreement, your league, with King Baasha in Israel, and I want you to be my friend instead. Because if you remember, my father and your father were friends at one time. I want to restore that friendship between you and me, and I want you to break your friendship with Israel. I want you to be my friend. Okay? So, well, it works. King Ben-Hadad breaks his agreement with King Baasha because Ben-Hadad wanted a couple things. He probably wanted to have King Asa on his side. Now King Asa would be indebted to him. He'd have to help him out. But the second reason is maybe King Baasha or Ben-Hadad wanted to attack the Israelites, and now this would be his opportunity. They're his neighbors. Judah is one more kingdom away. So he'll make an agreement. Now, if he makes a league with them and they both attack Israel, they've got them surrounded. So this sounds like a win-win to King Ben-Hadad. He's all for it. And so he makes a league with King Asa. Now, King Asa is being a little bit sneaky here. Right? He wants two things to happen. He wants to stop the people from, or King Baasha from building up those cities along the border. So he plays his hand here. He says, well, I can't attack the king of Israel. That won't be good, but I'll have somebody else do it. Okay? I'll have King Ben-Hadad attack, and that will distract. So that will distract King Baasha, and he'll leave off the building. He'll have to send his soldiers to the north to go fight King Ben-Hadad, and I'll get exactly what I wanted. So he works both of them. He convinces Ben-Hadad to become his friend and break his friendship with Baasha, which happens. And then he convinces King Ben-Hadad to attack Israel from the north. Okay? Capture some of those cities up there. So Baasha's attention is diverted. He has to call his soldiers away from building these cities. He needs every last one of them to head up to the north to fight. And so while that's going on, King Asa is sneaky, and he orders some of his men and soldiers go across the border into Israel. And now those cities aren't protected any longer. There's no soldiers there. There's no watchmen. Take the stones, take the lumber, and sneak it back across the border into Judah so that he doesn't have any building materials to build these cities with anymore. So King Asa gets his way. Was this a good and wise plan? Probably not. Now, he's probably going to have trouble with both of them. Now, in the future, Ben-Hadad might say, well, you owe me something because I helped you out. And King Baasha is not going to be happy because of the trickery that was done here by King Asa. He's only setting himself up for trouble down the road. Unwise move. Don't meddle in the middle of things that's other people's business. But that's what he did. Well, just like before, the prophet Azariah, we saw him yesterday. He had come to give some words of the Lord to King Asa. Now another prophet comes, Hanani. Look at verse 7 here of chapter 17. And at that time Hanani the seer came to Asa, king of Judah, and said unto him, because thou hast relied on the king of Syria, and not relied on the Lord thy God, therefore is the host of the king of Syria escaped out of thine hand. Were not the Ethiopians and the Lubans a huge host, and very many chariots and horsemen? Yet because thou didst rely on the Lord, he delivered them into thine hand. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. Herein thou hast done foolishly. Therefore from henceforth thou shalt have wars. Then Asa was wroth with the seer, and put him in the prison house, for he was in a rage with him because of this thing. And Asa oppressed some of the people at the same time. So, remember, when the Ethiopians had come, King Asa had gone to the Lord for help. Well, this time he doesn't do that. He didn't go to the Lord for help with King Baasha. He went to King Ben-Hadad. His trust was now in earthly men. He's showing a flaw here. Okay? So this prophet Hanani needs to come with strong words of rebuke. Do we like hearing strong words of rebuke? No. When mom and dad have to come to you and say, now, so-and-so, son or daughter, you know better than this, and you shouldn't have done that, and this is your punishment. We don't like those words. Well, neither did King Asa. Okay? Neither did King Asa. And so King Asa takes Hanani and foolishly puts him into prison. Okay? A miserable place. Uncomfortable positions. Okay? some of the other people in Israel didn't like that. Some of God's people, in Judah didn't like that. And they probably spoke up and spoke out against King Asa for doing that. So that King Asa oppressed them as well. So you can see, here was King Asa, who had been a good, godly man, who had followed the Lord's laws, and now he begins to turn away from them. He begins to trust in other men rather than God. He puts God's prophet in prison for speaking words he doesn't like. He oppresses the people that speak out against that thing. He was weak in his faith at this time. He was failing to trust in God. Okay. So what happens at the end of King Asa's reign? Well, that's the last part of chapter 16 here. Follow along. And behold, the acts of Asa, first and last, lo, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Asa, in the 39th year of his reign, was diseased in his feet until his disease was exceeding great. Yet in his disease he sought not to the Lord, but to the physicians. And Asa slept with his fathers, and died in the 41st year of his reign. And they buried him in his own sepulchres, which he had made for himself in the city of David, and laid him in the bed which was filled with sweet odors and diverse kinds of spices prepared by the apothecaries' art. And they made a very great burning for him. So near the end of his reign, he is still not trusting the Lord. He comes up with a disease that affects his feet. And rather than praying to God and asking for God to help him and deliver him, he again puts his trust in earthly princes and men. And he goes out and he finds some doctors who can apply some balm and medicines to his feet and make all kinds of promises that they can't do. And God didn't want his feet to heal, so they weren't going to heal no matter what these physicians did. He should have trusted in God, but he didn't. And he died because of his disease. Okay? The end of his life has much idol worship in it amongst the people of Judah. So after 41 years of reigning, his death is a miserable and sad death. They put him in with his fathers, apothecaries, people who work with dead bodies. Okay? And they're kind of like pharmacists today. They work with drugs and they understand how chemicals work together. They put on all kinds of sweet-smelling things with him because his body was stinking because of those diseases. Okay, and they burned sweet-smelling incense, a great burning to burn all kinds of sweet-smelling incense to make it so that people, if they wanted to come and see the body or whatever they did, they made it so that the smell of the death and decaying of King Asa, and specifically his feet, was covered by that smell. Now, we're going to jump back to the kings of Israel here a second. So you've got to look across. If you've got your chart out there, you can look across there. We're going to go back in our next lesson after our test back to the kingdom of Israel. We know that Zimri ruled for only 7 days. It took him 7 days to wipe out that house, and then he was surrounded by Omri. He burned the royal city and killed himself. But Omri at this time was not able to make himself the sole king. He claimed to be king, but there was another man too, Tibni, who also wanted to be king. We don't know anything else besides this, that he wanted to be the king following Zimri. So now you have in the kingdom of Israel, for a short period of time, you have two kings, Omri and this Tibni. In the end, Omri, with his rivalry with Tibni, end up being the victors within just a few years. So that's why we don't really recognize or even learn about this Tibni too much. We just should know about him, that Omri had to defeat him. Okay? One thing Omri did do during this time period, though, is he bought the hill of Samaria, and that would be the eventual place where the palace of all the future kings of Israel are going to rule from. There will be summer cities and other places by the seashores, but Samaria is the main capital city of Israel here moving forward. So when you do your map work for lessons 40 to 42, you'll see some of that. You'll see where that is. Okay? Now, there's that one verse, and I put that in there on your sheet there, where the verse says, "For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth." God sees everything. Nothing escapes him. He sees my sins. He sees my wickedness no matter how hard I try to hide it. He also sees the good, blessed things that we do as well that are glorifying to him as we have opportunity. Like our Christmas program. That's something that pleases the Lord. He sees it all. So we can't think we can hide from him. And the wicked can't either. Okay, but God runs to and fro in the earth. And to show himself strong on the behalf of him whose heart is perfect toward him. So when our hearts are turned towards the Lord sees that and he blesses us. Okay? Whereas he looks at the ungodly with anger. Okay? I've given you rain, you farmer, and you don't give me the credit or the appreciation for it. Or I've given you wealth, great man, and you don't properly give me the honor or the glory for it. Or I've blessed you with a wonderful family, and yet you wicked, sinful, and ungrateful person, you don't give the honor and the glory that you should. And so God looks at us. He looks at all of his people. He looks at the ungodly. He sees everything. There is no one that can escape the eyes of the Lord. So that's a good reminder for us. In our hearts, we ought to walk in a way that's proper and good before the Lord. Okay? And in that way, we walk before the Lord, in that sense that he sees all that we do. We walk before him with a good and godly heart.